Welcome to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer. Happy December to you. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Peak, where we say the quiet stuff out loud. How long have you been listening to the Peak? Has it been since we launched back in January, or maybe just in the past month? Maybe you're just picking up on us today. Well, we welcome you here and we ask you to be part of what we're doing, not just as a listener, but you may not know this. We are a citizen journalist organization. What does that mean? Well, we're citizens who are telling the stories. Here at the Peak, we have local stories told by local citizens, supported by local businesses. We're local, 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 and our goal is to take the media back, first here in our region, and then if it can go farther than this, that's great, because we know one thing. After the elections and after going through all this, and now looking at what's going on locally, with this story that we spent a lot of shows last week talking about was, did Mayor Yemi know? And if you don't know about that, there's a reason, because there's almost like a media blackout going on around this story. But if you've been here at the Peak, you are more educated on this than than pretty much anybody, because we're the only ones investigating it. We're the only ones that are staying on top of it, and everybody else, sort of weird, is sort of like trying to ignore it in the local media. We're talking newspapers, radio, television, and why is that? Well, we've speculated on that, and we'll continue to go. And we're going to be doing an update later in the show. We're not focusing the whole show on it today, because there's other stories that go on in the city, but we will tomorrow. We're going to be doing a big show on it to give you an update, and we have a great guest on, and we'll be telling you about that later. And so here at the Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud about everything, and I want to say the quiet stuff out loud about our sponsors. And we actually have one of our sponsors is our guest today, not because he's a sponsor, but because he has great information. But as a citizen journalist, everybody's welcome down here, and certainly our sponsors are the ones who are paying the bills, who are providing this service to you. And so we want you to patronize them, and none more than Springs Dentist and Dr. Craig Summer. They're our platinum sponsor, Holistic Dentistry in Colorado Springs. They're our family dentist. In fact, I had an appointment tomorrow, but I moved it till next week. So I'll let you know how that goes. But I love seeing Dr. Craig. But all of our sponsors, if you don't have someone in that category, use them. Or maybe if you're dissatisfied with someone in that category, use them and let them know, hey, I heard you on the Peak. We really appreciate you doing this. No one else is doing this in town. And the reason that we do it with business sponsors on the small level is basically the main reason that the media has been compromised is because big corporations took it over. And so by having local people, first of all, they care about our community, not just their bottom line, which they care about their bottom line. So they like us to report on these things and do things to clean up this town because they live here. But also, I don't have any sponsor that's so big that I can't lose them. Because sometimes you tell stories and sponsors don't like it, and if they have editorial control, as so many do, like the big pharma and all that, guess what? Somebody as big as Tucker Carlson can be off the air in a day. And so we've positioned ourselves to be able to serve you, not special interests, and we'd appreciate your support. So become a citizen journalist or a tech or an intern. If you know somebody young, we have a robust internship program that's growing all the time, and even being a guest. If you think you're interesting enough, go on our website. We have forms for all of that. Well, today is Business and Culture Monday, and so we have as our guest and co-host for the hour Jason Scott of Task Force Mortgage, one of our sponsors. He is a retired U.S. Army combat veteran, founder of the TFMT Racing Team, and he's a mortgage broker here in the Springs. And so on this business day, we're going to be talking about the outlook for the economy and mortgages, specifically in light of the election, as well as about his nonprofit race team and why he has a heart for doing that. So, business. Well, we're open for business. We just had Small Business Saturday here in the Springs. The holiday Christmas season is in full swing. And so guess what? The local people are really looking for you to help their bottom line. This has been a tough year. We all know that, but hopefully with the new administration, regardless of what you think about it, things are going to be different. So if you're willing to admit that our economy has been basically a mess for the past couple of years. The people have tightened up on their money, all that other stuff. It's time to get out there and patronize local businesses, because when you do that, guess what? The money stays in the economy. It stays more when you do it, rather than the foreign online shopping or the big box houses, which have their place. But I want to encourage you that if you can spend a little bit more, guess what? That money comes back very possibly to your business. And in order for us to build out our economy here, we need to do that. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to The Peak on The Answer. When we come back, we have Jason Scott and local business headlines. We'll be right back. Okay.
We're still technically live.
We're technically live on here. Hey, thanks for joining us on the live stream, whether live or recording. Thank you for being here. Yes. So no, we're on, but we can talk. So, do you want to say anything regarding this Yummy thing, or do you have anything to say, or you want me to handle it?
You handle that. I mean,
okay. I figured, very often, my guess.
Like I said, I watched listened to one of the episodes, and it was like, holy cow.
Okay.
So now I'm going to have to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
And listen
So
to
the second thing we're going to do is about the amphitheater, so you can talk financially,
Beautiful.
IPO.
Yeah.
Have you been to the amphitheater?
No, I have
Okay.
not.
Okay.
Trust me, my wife and I wanted to, a few of them, but a lot of the tickets were sold out for the shows that we wanted to go to. But I just think it's exciting for Colorado Springs.
So let's
something
talk
like
about
that.
the amphitheater a little bit, maybe about IPOs, why they're important, if you have any of that, and then NORAD. The NORAD Santa thing will be fun. And then for feature number 1, Warriors in Motion, you have some bullet points.
Yeah,
I just prefer.
I know you do, but
because it's
you're not
live
going to
radio.
get them. It's not anything that's going to be bad. I'm just going to tell them our vision, what we did, and why we continue to do it.
Okay, and
So-
you'll track along for the
Yep.
4 minutes. Okay,
that's
if
easy.
you run out of time, I'll ask a follow up.
No worries.
We like it to basically be
Yep.
a monologue.
Perfect.
Okay. I'll let you go because you've been a host, but I like people to be able to look down and see where they're going to be going and click through it. So okay. Otherwise, wrap it up.
Yeah.
If I need 10, 15 seconds to get it back, and the energy sort of over the top and stuff. And if I give you a 1 or a 2, that's a time budget.
Yeah.
So say, hey, hand it back in about a minute or
Yep.
2 minutes. Okay, cool. Forgot to do that before the show. So
No, we talked about it in the conference room.
okay. The timing? Well, I did,
Yeah.
for the 3, 2, 1 thingy. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's see. We're back at 10, so about a minute and a half. Okay. Let me review this article.
Our vision is a Kingdom of God revolution in the Rockies to empowering people to change the world. We believe this is best accomplished through building men into leaders. Hello, I'm Dr. Steve Holt, the senior pastor from Lebanon Chapel Hill. Join 400 men on Tuesday mornings at 6 a.m. for Bible study and breakfast, Sunday mornings for our regular worship services. For more details, check us out at lebanon.org. It's located at 2380 Montebello near North Academy in Union.
Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. And we are hyper-local news talk for the Pikes Peak region. And for everything the Peak, including to find out about joining us as a citizen journalist and so much more, go to thepeak.news, thepeak.news. Now, this traditionally is our headline segment that we do at the front end of the program, and I see for the foreseeable future we're probably going to be having this Mayor Yemi story. If you haven't heard about it, I'll be briefing you on it quickly, and we also have a whole web page about it. We did multiple shows on it last week, and we're accumulating a lot more data on it all the time from other people, other articles, other media, in as much as they're covering it. But we also have some other articles here, and joining me here for the headlines is Jason Scott of Task Force Mortgage. And later on in the show, we're going to be talking about mortgages in light of the elections and also his nonprofit racing team. And this is our Business and Culture Day, so this is all interesting stuff. Jason Scott, thanks so much for being here on the Peak.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
This is mic up? I didn't hear him.
I don't think it is.
Jason? Hey, is it? This is mic up?
No.
Come on, there.
Test 1, 2. Uh-oh.
What's going on? Okay, well, we're going to get him up. I'm going to cover this, but let's get his mic up by the time he's going to talk. But I'm taking this first one because there's just a lot of data to relate in a lot of time. Oh, is that what happened?
Nope, neither one.
Okay.
I'm sitting here.
Okay. I don't know. Come on in and see, and let's get it good. We're doing live radio here,
Unless
folks.
it's
So let me
because-
get on to the headlines while they're fixing Jason's mic. So, if you haven't heard of this, let you know real quick. On Thursday, the 21st of November, a story broke, not locally, even though it's really a story that should basically just be of local interest. It was broken by the Daily Wire, and it claims that this hate crime hoax that we have federal charges on for 3 individuals in our area that was seemingly perpetrated during the mayoral campaign of 2023 when Yemi Mobolade and Wayne Williams were running against each other, that it claims within the Daily Wire article, and you can get this information from the Daily Wire or from our website, that our mayor, Yemi Mobolade, then a candidate, knew that this hoax was being perpetrated in order to help him in the elections, that it was a fake hate crime in order to raise up, play the race card, all that kind of stuff. And the claim is that he knew about it before, during, and after, and when the feds came to question him about it, that he lied to them.
Insane.
So these are huge charges. But what's really, really strange is the media has basically ignored this story. Now I understand that you don't want to put bad information out there, but the bottom line is that a national news organization has already made this accusation against our mayor. So on the local level, our job as media is to investigate it. Mayor Yemi either needs to have his name cleared or he needs to be held accountable in an appropriate way. But ignoring the story is very, very strange, and we've been covering that. And this story, I'll let you know, keeps getting quite interesting as we look more and more into it and all the players and everything else. So it's not going away, and now thankfully, even though most of the media is just covering it or sort of not covering it, City Councilman Dave Donaldson has spoken out against this. He was on the show last week. George Brockler, who is a district attorney and now new district attorney for the new District 23, Judicial District 23, he wrote an op-ed piece in the Gazette that came out on Friday, was in the paper on Sunday. He's going to be on our program tomorrow talking about this as a lawyer and looking into this, because he's calling, as we all are, for, hey, Mayor Yemi, you can clear this up, come before the people. But there's only been these blanket, almost saying nothing statements coming from the mayor's office saying they don't want to interfere with these federal charges that are brought against these 3 people in the hoax. But everybody's saying, we don't want you to talk about that. We want you to address the Daily Wire article. So on Wednesday, an article did finally come out in the Gazette. Colorado Springs Mayor Mobolade says he, quote, fully cooperated, end quote, with investigation into fake hate crime. He gives an official statement in here that says, let's see. I had no knowledge, warning, or involvement in this reprehensible act. I fully cooperated in the investigation. It is important that the judicial process is followed to allow for a successful prosecution that brings justice for our community. Okay, sort of not saying anything, and certainly not addressing, did you know, did you not know? That is not being said. And now it's been 10 days. We don't have that. And so we're trying to get to the bottom of this, and if you have any information, you can help. We actually have on this special page that we set up on our website, thepeak.news, thepeak.news, yes, that's it, not .com, .news, /hate crime hoax, or you can get to it from our website. We have an anonymous, or you can put your name, tip line there, because we're trying to get this information. This is really interesting, and I'll just add this to this strange thing that's going on, and then we'll get on to the other things. The person, Bernard, who is supposedly the head person in this hoax, was just convicted to life plus 96 years for ordering the murder of a local rapper. Okay, he's in jail, and we're actually in contact with him. We're trying to get the story because he's the one with the text, the Yemi, and all this other stuff. But here's the interesting thing. The person who supposedly committed the murder, his trial isn't until January, and he's out walking around on the street, having supposedly shot someone 18 times, 7 times in the head. Now that is because there's a loophole, and won't go into that, we'll go into more detail tomorrow. But here's the question I have just right off the bat. How did someone get life plus 96 years for hiring a person who has yet to go to trial and be convicted?
Yeah.
How does stuff move in that order? And so we're going to ask George Brockler this as a lawyer and a DA tomorrow, as well as other questions, so join us for that. Okay, moving on. Jason.
All right, we're working now.
Okay, Venue, which formerly Notes Live, which is J.W. Roth and the new amphitheater and Bourbon Brothers, just did an IPO last Wednesday at $10 a share in order to raise money for, he's doing these amphitheaters and restaurants all over, and they raised $13.8 million. What do you think about that?
That's insane. That's awesome. I mean, I have not had the pleasure of visiting the Ford Amphitheater here yet, but just from, well, sorry, I have not had the opportunity to visit during a concert, but I have been there and seen the actual structure itself, and it is really cool. You know, my wife and I, we've been wanting to go to quite a few of the shows, but they sell out super quick. So,
but JW is a great businessman. We actually have him set.
He's local, right?
Yeah, local. He's here, but he's now that he did the amphitheater, and they're asking him to put them in all over the country, and so he's needed to raise money because these things cost a lot of money, especially there's bigger ones in other areas. And we actually have JW Roth scheduled at the end of the month here to be on the show here on the Peak. So I'm looking forward for that. But anyway, big deal with the IPO. You can go VENU is the stock if you want to buy it. Okay. Last, beloved tradition continues. NORAD set to track Santa for the 69th year. Website went live yesterday.
This is cool.
Jason, you said you've been involved.
Yes.
You're military, and you said you've been involved in this.
Yeah, so I've been a sponsor. Getting the one. We got to wrap it up here in a minute. So yes, I've been a sponsor last couple of years through the help of the Sergeant Major Association here, Pikes Peak chapter, as well as the Association of the United States Army Pikes Peak chapter with retired Sergeant Majors Chet Miller and Scott Leeling. I just think it's cool they put it on every year. We always talk about time, talent, or treasure. I couldn't afford the time or the talent. Could afford the treasure a couple of years, and it's just neat. The kids getting to talk to Santa Claus and all that stuff. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
And so what they're doing is they're doing NORADSanta.org, NORADSANTA.org. So you can track Santa around. But what's really funny, and I appreciate about this, is that this tradition started 70 years ago in 1955. Sears Roebuck ran an advertisement in the Gazette with a phone number for children to call Santa. They had one digit wrong, and it called NORAD.
Yep.
Okay, how do you get that number? And so this is really, it's just really interesting how the tradition started on a fluke. And then, the Army thought, this is a good idea. The Central Command thought, hey, this is a good idea. Let's go with it. Well, when we come back, we have Jason Scott of Task Force Mortgage, and he's going to be talking about the TFMT racing team, Warriors in Motion, one of his passions. You're listening to The Peak on Business and Culture Day, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, they figured it out. This was unplugged. The actual coax cable.
Okay.
That was weird. Don't know why I was unplugged.
Yeah, I was sitting there, I was like,
Have we not tested it?
so before you came in, I was sitting there, I was like, well, all right, I just need to loosen this up and get it in there. And that's when you
Okay,
walked in.
someone
I'm
must
like,
have been
okay.
fidgeting
Because
with
it literally had been unplugged the whole
Okay.
time. And I was like,
So let's try to do sound checks, I guess, when we're in here. That's why Matt's been asking me to come in here earlier, so.
Right.
Okay, thanks, James.
Yep.
Thanks for solving it. Okay. Oh, no. Never started the camera. I mean, it's been live streaming, but.
oh. Oh, you never pressed the record button?
No, I normally do a backup on here in case
Oh.
we lose feed or whatever. Got redundancy.
That's the cool thing about Riverside FM, though, is if it's tied to it, it backs up to your local device in case there's anything that goes down.
Yeah, it's just the quality is always better.
Gotcha.
Right to the chip on the camera.
Oh, no, that's probably at least an 8K.
No, it's
Oh, no?
actually no, that's an older camera, but it's plenty good. It's a 1080
Okay.
camera, 1920 by 1080. I like the big older cameras where you can have all your buttons on the side.
I use a Sony ZV-1 is what I use in my home studio. So
Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay. Orders in motion. So do you have like a story arc for it, why you started it, what it
Yeah.
does, and then come back around and
yep,
can people take part in it, or
absolutely. That's the whole point of it.
so wrap with a
Yeah,
with a,
and I'll direct them to the Jason C. Scott website because that's what we talked about as well.
Okay, we're back in 10, 13. That was 10, a minute and a half.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. This commercial break's a little bit longer. Yeah, this,
right over your existing ones. Sound smart? It is.
For more information, go to granitetransformations.com. That's granitetransformations.com. Let us do the dangerous thing.
Okay, well, someone's sending me a lead of someone who's gotten really screwed by the Colorado family court system and can. Really,
I'm sorry?
Well, I just have a lead of someone that knows somebody who's been
Oh, wow.
screwed over for 7 years by the Colorado family court system and wants to tell that story.
Damn. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
But
That's a whole other story
This is
by
good.
itself based on each state you're in, the amount of money that's created by family law.
it says 7 years, $300,000 to date.
Wow.
Court over custody of his daughter.
Yeah.
So, but this story is great because it's making it apparent that we're the ones you can give
People
tips
reach out
to.
to. Yeah,
You can give tips to us and we'll run them
I
out.
love that.
And everybody else feels ignored because nobody's reporting on anything.
Nice music selection.
Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer, and today is Business and Culture Monday. And we have Jason Scott of Task Force Mortgage. I'll be bringing
Hello.
back on in a second. But a shout out to one of our gold sponsors, Home Comfort Heating and Air. They do our HVAC. Vern is a friend of mine and has been with us from the beginning. Actually, was just had a fire pit on Saturday night. Was sharing a cigar with Vern and thanking him because of all this investigative journalism that we're doing now. That we're here in order to report on this Mariemi story and more. We're getting more and more tips all the time. Is because people like Vern stepped up, got behind this when it was brand new and said, yeah, we need to have journalism. We need to have it. And as did more recently, because I hadn't met Jason at that point, Jason Scott of Task Force Mortgage is also a sponsor. So Jason, thanks so much for that.
Yes, sir.
And Jason also is involved with sponsors the TFMT racing team. And so in this segment, he wanted to talk about Warriors in Motion. Jason
Yep.
Scott.
All right, so we're gonna make this real quick and high energy. Yes. So it all started about 3 years ago. I made a trip out to Virginia International Raceway, commonly known as Heaven on Earth by Paul Newman, who was a racer, right? And actor and spaghetti maker and or spaghetti sauce maker, right? Went out there and met with not Homes for Heroes, but Racing for Heroes, and it was a retired special forces gentleman that started alternative therapy for veterans that had transitioned but were having issues to help keep them from becoming that 22 a day statistic, right? And we became good friends, and I said, hey, I want to buy a car and I want to get into this. And he's like, all right, cool. And then of course last 28 months and the last 4 years of this administration really hurt his business, so he had to step away from it. One of my other buddies, current active duty Green Beret, started the nonprofit Warriors in Motion. So we took my car, added his cars, and we created a chapter out there in North Carolina, where we have a great relationship with the Rockingham Speedway, otherwise known as the Rock, which they're super excited because NASCAR is coming back to them this upcoming year. And basically we help, the goal is to help people that have had a hard time that have transitioned. We open it up to first responders, emergency personnel as well, because they see a lot of crazy stuff in their own backyards that typically they're not prepared for. And it gives them an opportunity to, we provide mission, direction, purpose, and most of all, hope again. And we do it through long distance or endurance racing. So if you've ever seen Ford versus Ferrari, Le Mans, that's the type of racing that we do. So if you guys want to learn more, you can go to jasoncscott.com. That's the umbrella for everything related to me and what we do. We have a special tab on there that talks about Warriors in Motion and TFMT Racing. We're going to be expanding the chapter out here to Colorado Springs this upcoming year, so we'll be bringing my car, which we call Old Faithful. The reason why she's called Old Faithful is because she's literally started every race and finished every race, which that hasn't happened with all of our other vehicles. So, but we're going to be doing that this upcoming spring, and we'll be probably racing out of High Plains Raceway, which is just a couple and 2.5 hours northeast of the Springs.
And so, well, what do people do when they're involved with you? Like,
So we talk about bringing
what's the
time, talent, and
experience?
treasure, right? So if you have someone that is having a hard time struggling, in order to keep them, the goal is to keep them from becoming that 22 a day statistic.
Of
right?
suicide,
Veteran
veteran
yes.
suicide, yeah.
So we bring them out to a race, have them meet the team, fellow veterans, first responders, and we just start talking stories. See them, watch them, see what we do, right? And then if we feel like they're going to be a good fit and we can help, we invite them back. There's some train up. We don't just throw everybody into a race car. That would be insane. But there's a process. And if they can make it, they become a driver as part of the team. I am actually a driver when we do this. If they can't drive, it's not like we kick them to the curb, because there's so many parts to a race, right? You have drivers, you have your engineer, you have people on the ground, your pit crew.
Could they be
right?
pit crew?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had quite a few guys
That's
that
fun.
through the selection process, long story short, you start off in a basic car, then you get into the race car as we get there, but you have to put on this thing called a Hans device. And a Hans device is a deal that goes over your neck, attaches to your race helmet, and most people don't like that because you can only move your head about 1/4 inch while you're in the race car, so that freaks a lot of people out. So that's the big discriminator. But then again, if they can't do that, a lot of them are literally, they're like, Jake, I still want to be involved. How can I help? And that's how we go.
And how powerful are these cars? that you're racing?
We're running 150, 160 miles an hour on
Okay.
a track, so yeah.
What's that, what class of car are they? Are they
So it's Spec E46.
Okay. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to The Peak on AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer, we're here with Jason Scott of Task Force Mortgage, retired U.S. Army combat veteran, and part of this race team. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the economy and mortgages in light of the elections that just passed. We'll be right back. Cool. Okay, this is 2 minutes. This break
This
is
section
short.
or the break is
the
2
break
minutes,
is just 2 minutes. This is the 12-minute
Yep,
segment. We're on
interview.
segment 4, so
Cool.
turn there.
So that makes
And then
sense
we
about
pay, so you have about 2 to
Three-
3 minutes
for
per
each one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's easy.
And I'll pace you through when we start getting through it. So. Cool.
No, what do you think of his picks so far, first game? I love every single one of them.
Overall, it seems really good. Obviously, it's a total meritocracy and not lifestyle or
Yeah.
whatever of people. The one guy to handle, I think, his treasury, that was the Soros guy. I'm a little suspect, but he says, hey, he's supposedly a conservative and he's just good at making money. He made money for Soros. He can make it for. So it's overall, it's very interesting.
I like it just because it is completely, I mean, the way he's set to the way he's poising himself to literally take action on day one versus everything else. But I'm curious as to who's going to be head of Secret Service, who's going to appoint for that.
Well, we have the FBI now.
Well, yeah, you got Cash, which that guy's, as Dan Bongino would say, he's got the coconuts to go in there.
Yeah.
So
No, I think everybody does. It's it's just going to be interesting. And Trump seems to be the guy who can make them all work together. Jeff Crank,
Yep.
who's our congressman, he comes in here every week. He does his podcast
Oh, wow.
out here for
Okay.
American for Prosperity. So when I saw him last week, he said that he went in for freshman training, and they were discussing Mike Johnson and like all this, and Trump came in. He's like, Mike Johnson, that's it, and then they unanimously voted.
Damn.
So he's unified. Welcome back. Oh. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. We are on Business and Culture Mondays. How we make sure that we cover the whole region is we've themed out our week. So Business and Culture Mondays, Government and Politics on Tuesdays, Faith and Family on Wednesdays, and then Education and or Media on Thursdays. Sometimes we can combine them, and then we rinse and repeat and do it again. It makes us cover the whole region on this, because it's very easy for shows like this to become a political show or a business show. But we don't want that. We want the Peak. That's why it's called the Peak. We cover the whole region, and you can go to thepeak.news, check us out. Our last show last week, live show that we did, we had a special on Thanksgiving. We hit 150 episodes. So we've done 151 shows. Today is 152, and you can find our podcast at thepeak.news on our podcast page. And join us. There are so many stories to tell about this region. They're not being told at all, and we need citizen journalists like you. So whatever you're passionate about, whether it's hard, news or feature news or whatever, you like school boards, you like sports, come on in, work with us, take your ground, help us tell the stories, help us say the quiet stuff out loud. Well, we are saying the quiet stuff out loud with Jason Scott of Task Force Mortgage, retired U.S. Army combat veteran, founder of the TFMT Racing Team, and he's a mortgage broker here in the Springs. And in this segment, we're going to be talking about the economy and mortgages in light of the election. And full disclosure, Jason Scott is one of our sponsors. You'll hear his Task Force Mortgage commercials during the program every day. So again, Jason, thanks so much for being here.
Yes, sir.
And thanks for funding this crazy, scrappy, grassroots citizen journalist project.
No, I
here.
love it. It's awesome.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we're finally breaking some stories. It's getting exciting. So before we get into the topic at hand, how did you get into the VA mortgage business? You have sort of a circuitous route through the military and all kinds of other cool stuff.
So to keep it simple, folks, because I've only got a couple of minutes to say this, I was getting ready to retire. Obviously, I had options based off of my skill set. Bought
What was your skill set?
knocking down doors and taking care of bad guys.
Okay.
All right. So, I bought my.
So you come to a repo man.
I did that in a former life though in college. We'll talk about that. But anyway, yeah, I was getting ready to retire. I had a year and a half left in the Army, and just bought our second home. Made a great relationship with the lender at the time. He was basically like family. And New Year's Eve of that year, don't ask me which year because it's been over 12 years since I started, but we'll say 2013 or 2012, sorry. And he's like, Jay, what are you going to do when you get out? I was like, well, I'm being recruited by 3-letter organizations. And he's like, that's cool, but that means you won't be here. Here was Hawaii. We bought a home on Oahu. And I was like, yeah, but it's expensive to live here. And he's like, why don't you just become a lender? And I was like, dude, I did car sales in college. No thanks, I'm not going to do that. And he got really pissed off. He's about 5'2", I'm 6'2". So it wasn't threatening in that manner, but it was shocking. And he's like, did I ever sell you anything? No, he didn't. He goes, Jay, you teach people to shoot, move, and communicate in different languages all over the world. Mortgage is another language. You're great at math. I think you'd be really great at teaching people this. Well, my wife worked for the DFI, which is the Department of Financial Institutions at the time. Her job was to audit mortgage lenders. I said, let me ask my wife. Talked to her, and she's like, yeah, babe, I think you'd do great at this. And she goes, when do you want to start? And I was like, well, I'm retired on active duty right now because I reached a position to where I was able to put in a regular day and then moonlight, right? And so we had this agreement that if I could at least match what I was making in the Army by the time I retired, then we can make it go. Because this industry, honestly, most people it takes them anywhere from 5 to 10 years to truly become successful, right? So that's the long and short of how I actually got into the mortgage industry, and it just so happened the company I went to work for specialized on the VA home loan benefit, which is what my passion is helping veterans achieve home ownership and build wealth through the VA home loan benefit.
Okay, and then how'd you decide to leave Hawaii and
The
make
pandemic.
Colorado Springs?
The pandemic. I was opening up a second location here, literally during the middle of the pandemic. We bought another home right down the road off of Woodman and Austin's Bluffs up at Woodman Point, and I come here and people were like, "You came here from Hawaii?" I'm like, "Yeah." Well, man, the way we're handling the pandemic's horrible. I'm like, no, you have no idea.
Yeah,
Trust me.
yeah, I know people that it was so restricted.
Oh, I was like, it was like New York on an island, right? We literally, you couldn't go anywhere. Couldn't do anything. Couldn't go to the beach. Couldn't take our boat out. Nothing, right? So I would spend 45 days here getting this branch up and running, 45 days there. Well, we got to the point where I was like, dude, 45 here, go back for 7 days. And I was like, babe, I gotta head back to the mainland. I can't handle this. I was getting severe island fever. I just couldn't. I didn't agree with the policies, and plus I had friends that were third and fourth generation locals that were becoming financially bankrupt. They were never going to recover. And so that's how we ended up choosing Colorado Springs, and been here for about 3 years now. Love it.
Okay, so it's been about 4 weeks since the election.
Oh, yeah.
What is your take on where America is right now from the economic side? How do you see the economy now with the incoming administration, and specifically, let's get into the situation with mortgages.
Yeah, so let's talk about where the economy is right now. If you think the economy is great, I'm sorry, you're sorely mistaken. You've had months after months of falsified reports of, because we get what's called the BLS reports. Those are complete bogus.
Can leave out the L. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
BS reports.
Yeah, and overstated. I mean, I think even President Trump talked about it during his campaign trail. Like, when you overstate 800,000 jobs, that's kind of a big deal, right? The economy is not going. Second thing, when you think about your federal deficit in your macro level of the budget, 86% of the government budget comes from payroll taxes, right? Payroll taxes. So if you have 860,000 plus job creation, you should have as large of a deficit in your budget. Those two numbers don't jive, right? So yes, we're in. If you don't believe we're in recessionary times, we are, and it's getting worse. Now, light at the end of the tunnel. I've been through this before when President Trump was elected the first time. A lot of optimism because he is good at what he does on the business side of things. How's that relate to mortgage rates? Well, you're not going to like this. In 2016, when he was elected, we saw the largest rate hike we'd ever seen in 40 years, not counting the last 2 years, obviously, because of the optimism, because of the way the economy works. You have to understand that when the economy is good, you're not going to have low mortgage rates. However, when the economy is good, people are making more money, it balances itself out. To see mortgage rates drop dramatically, like in the 2s and the 3s, what we call the steroid years of 19, 20, and 21, you need something cataclysmic, i.e. pandemic, i.e. potentially World War III. That would be horrible, right? Great for mortgage rates, horrible for everybody else, right? So what I do think we'll see, because of trends, you're going to see normalcy because the Fed has to cut the Fed index rate, right? Which, again, don't confuse Fed cut rates with mortgage rates. Fed cut rates are a short-term rate. It's literally a rate that banks use overnight to lend other banks money, right? It's also used in your credit cards, installment loans, I'm trying to think, money market accounts, right? They're all tied to that same type of rate. So when the Fed cuts rates in money markets, what do you think happens? People are like, oh, I'm making less money now. I need something a little bit more long-term. So they invest in 10-year U.S. Treasury yields. Well, 10-year U.S. Treasury yields back 30-year mortgage-backed securities. So as more people invest in 10-year U.S. Treasury yields, guess what happens? The price goes up, and so do rates, right? So when the Fed cuts rates, will it have an impact on mortgages? For sure, but it's indirectly, and it takes more time.
So what do you suggest? What's the strategy for first-time mortgages, for concurrent mortgages, people that want to get that, especially for veterans, because that's your specialty?
Same strategy, and you're never going to hear me say, date the rate, marry the mortgage. I think that's complete bull stuff, right? You need to go into it with a budget in mind, right? Not a price point, a budget. That budget is what is your monthly nut when you're buying your home. Whether it's at a 5% rate, 6% rate, 3% rate, you still have a budget, right? If you go into a budget, and a conservative budget, say, I know I can afford this, that's what a true loan officer should be doing for you versus just taking an application. Go within a budget, and you got to stick to it. Now, granted, when people buy homes, it's very rarely logical. It's very emotional, right? Because people don't go to a lender first before they go look at homes. They go to Zillow, they go to Redfin, they go to wherever, and they see this awesome home, and then they decide, oh, I need to get pre-approved. And then when they get pre-approved, they realize, oh, I can't afford that awesome home anymore. Well, then it discourages them. Get pre-approved first, establish the budget, talk to a true professional, and then go house hunting, right? And if you can afford it, awesome. If you can't afford it, then somebody should be helping you create a plan to where you can get ultimately to where you can afford what you need or
Okay.
want.
What about people getting second mortgages, home equity, things like that?
It depends on what you're using it for, right? I mean, here's the bad part. Any type of refinance, there's 3 reasons why people refinance. 1, they've overspent their discretionary income, which I'll be honest with you, as rates go up, you're starting to see the highest amount of spending and credit we've ever seen. It's not sustainable. People are literally outspending what they earn. So you pay that off using the equity in your home, which is awesome. But if you don't change your lifestyle and you go right back out and recharge up credit cards, you just put yourself in a worse position. So you got to refinance for the right reason and stick to it, right?
Okay, we have just about a minute left. Tell us about Task Force Mortgage, and I know you have educational materials on your site.
Yeah, you can go to jasoncScott.com. That keeps it legal. Everything's housed under there. Because Jason C. Scott's not going away. I hate talking about myself in third person, but yeah.
Because you need to do all kinds of disclaimer language.
Yeah, exactly.
I sent you directly to the other.
But I'm purely education based. I'm not going to sell you anything. In fact, I have told many people that this is not the right time for you to refinance. It doesn't make sense mathematically. 2 + 2 always equals 4. It's never 3. It's never 5. I don't care what math you've learned, right? So that's what you get with me. Full transparency, a lot of candor, but with the utmost respect, right? And here's the thing: if I tell you no, it's not no forever. It's normally no for right now, but I'm going to help you build a plan on how to get ultimately what you're trying, to do.
And the specialty with veterans mortgage?
Yes, the VA home loan benefit's near and dear to my heart because it's such a powerful benefit, and because you've served this country, I'm a firm believer that if you've served and sacrificed for this country, you deserve to own a piece of it.
Okay, go to jasoncscott.com for more information. Jason, it's hard for me to process all that stuff. People picked it up, but he has a lot of educational resources on the website. So go get that and consider. How are you feeling about the economy? Is this the right time to buy a home? I know things are expensive in the spring. We'll see how that goes. I'm Goldman the Watchman. When we come back, we're going to be finishing up with Jason regarding being civically active in your community, as we all should, and of course Jim Miller and the Peak Rants. You're listening to The Peak. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. It's Business and Culture Mondays, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, that's why this format's normally not the best for my type of work because there's a lot and condense it and just fast be like what? I mean, that's why normally when I go places when they pay me to speak, it's much longer. So and there's no commercials.
Let me find out about the rant.
Find out about the rant.
The rant. Yeah.
Oh, the rant.
Jim
Okay.
Miller's rant. Hey.
They serve all of El Paso, Teller, and Elbert counties. Home Comfort installs and services all types of furnaces and air conditioning systems, as well as whole house air purifiers. For more information and to book an on-site visit and free estimate, ComfortAJ.com.
Oh, I just remembered a promotion for Wednesday
Oh yeah.
show. So,
Yeah. Who is it? Quick.
Sean Mulholland.
Thank you for remembering that. Sean, S-H-A, I mean not the
No, it's SEA.
S-E-A-N. Sean Moll.
MULHOLLAND.
Okay, and who is he?
He is the founder of Jesus Co. I'm sorry, I didn't go and get all ready for
Jesus Co.
I can also do it right now.
And what are we talking about?
You're going to be talking about worship, ministry, and worship in Colorado Springs. I guess worship music, worship leading.
Worship, music, and ministry.
Yeah.
Okay, founder of Jesus Co., which is based in the Springs.
Yep. Jesus Co/worship mode.
Oh, that's worship. Okay, people know that.
Right. Well, they renamed it Jesus Co. like a year and a half ago. So,
Okay.
yeah. Worship
Formerly worship mom.
Right.
Okay. Okay, Sean Mulholland, founder of Jesus Co., formerly Worship Mob, a worship ministry based in Springs. We're going to be talking about worship and music and ministry here. Is that enough? Anything else?
Yeah, no, not specifically.
Okay.
All right now I can go see if there's any other.
Okay, well, I'm back. I mean, I have a commercial before that, so if you can throw me some more. I do it in the final.
Right. Okay. So I'll let you know if it is for that.
Okay, thank you, Zach.
Colorado students together. For more info on after-school and homeschool programs,
Where's
SportsTeams.com or call 719-629-SWIM. Express Printing is
So
your
we're back in
one-stop
30?
family print shop in Colorado
Okay,
Springs.
so we have
If this is your
5:20
years, Express
for
is part
this.
of our community. Located at 3434 West Jeffrey Circle, Express Printing is friendly, fast, and affordable.
Doing a rant about liberal women. That should be interesting. Going to do a rant about liberal women.
Oh, that whole 4B thing that they're doing, or
I
whatever.
don't know what it's about. I let
boy.
Jim basically has free reign,
Okay.
so I don't even know. I don't even hear. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer, and we've been streaming on Facebook from the beginning, and I never mentioned it. So if you want to catch radio on video, that's what it is. We're sitting in a studio, but you can join us there. Where our Facebook is the Peak News Media.
I think he's got you on YouTube as well.
Yeah, we are. We're
Yeah.
streaming on YouTube, which I think is just the Peak News. But we're the Peak News Media on Facebook, and you can check us out there in our live stream, and you can get some behind the scenes because, of course, we keep rolling during the break. So in this final segment with Jason Scott of Task Force Mortgage, we always like to, in this program, I don't believe in passive listeners. We love having you as a fan. Glad you're driving up and down the highway, listening to the podcast. But the reason we do hyper-local news is because it's actionable. When you listen to national news or even state news, what are you going to do about it? I mean, really, in a lot of ways, it's interesting, but it can waste your time. The things that we learn about here on the local level, you can actually do something about it. You can go to a city council meeting or a school board meeting. You have a business here. You can go out and get involved in the schools or whatever, arts and entertainment. Whatever's going on, you can actually do it. And so what are you going to do? And are you involved? And are you looking for something, within your passion? So first, I want to ask, because Jason is a sponsor here. I love our sponsors, so please become one. But those who have become sponsors here, I'd love to know why they do it, because they really believe in what we're doing since we're a startup. We've only been here since January. So Jason, thanks for sponsoring us through Task Force Mortgage, but why did you decide to become a sponsor of the Peak?
That's a great question, and the answer is really simple. Because I've been blessed and have become successful in the industry that I'm in a very short amount of time, been able to continue to do that. One of my key mantras is being able to get back to your community and be involved in your community. So obviously we started in Hawaii. Out there I was involved with U.S. Vets. Their mission was to help homelessness to home ownership, right? Basically taking veteran homelessness off the street, right? So when we moved out here, we really didn't have people in the business community that we knew, right? So it's taken me almost 3 years to really get involved as far as who's my tribe, who am I going to be with, and that started with our good friend January 6th survivor, and he said, Jay, we've got this.
Tom Hamner.
Yeah, I didn't know if I was allowed to say his name.
No, he absolutely is, and he's a sponsor too through
Yeah.
Granite Transformation.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were put together by one of our local J6 guy who spent over 2 years in jail for it, Tom Hamner.
Yeah, so I met him at the house, and just a great dude, great story. Used his services, and then he reached back out and was like, Jay, I like you. I think you're going to like these type of people. Because we talked a little bit about business while he was doing his deal, and that's where I first met you and some other like-minded folks. And I brought one of my friends, and I was like, dude, this is what we've been looking for. This is our tribe. This is who we need to be involved with. And then, of course, that's what led to being involved with the Peak, right? So.
And you did radio in Hawaii.
I did. We had our own Veterans Movement radio show once a week out there. So it was cool, and it wasn't Salem media, but still, it was radio. And
There are others.
Yeah, there are others. And then the other people that we're really involved with is Mount Carmel Veteran Service Center. I love what Colonel Bob's doing out there. Jay Chimino, obviously he just recently passed this year, but he's been he was instrumental to getting that started many years ago. And so yeah, you've got to be able to give back. Even when you don't have anything to give, you can either offer time, talent, or treasure, right? You know, VSOs love the treasure, but at the same time, they love the talent and the time that you can bring as well, right? So, so I'm not saying I gave a huge treasure to you guys. You guys know this, but it was a modest amount for me to start off with for what we can do, and hopefully grow from there and help
Yeah.
you guys grow from there.
Thank you. Doing that. We have less than a minute left. What do you want to say to people that are thinking about, you know, getting off the dime? Everybody's so busy, everybody's so stressed, everybody's
that.
so out. But you know, to do something. What do you tell people to get involved? Find their place where they can give
Buy
back?
the book called Your 5 Next Moves by Patrick Bet-David, and then, you know, go after it, right? This is the time. Time is now. The last 4 years, a lot of people have been suppressed, hidden, afraid. You know, now's the time, right? Get out there, do it. Quit making excuses.
Yeah, as we've been saying, this is, you know, this new administration is not the end all be all. It's giving us an opportunity
Yes.
for us, we the people in our local areas, to step forward again. And so please do that. Join us here at the Peak. Do something in some realm. Get out there, make a difference in your community. Like Jason Scott, the website jasoncscott.com for everything Jason Scott. Jason, thanks so much for
Thank
being
you.
a sponsor, and thanks for being on the show today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, sir.
And now we have a guy who's out in the community all the time, just a guy, Jim Miller and the Peak Rants. Jim is talking about, oh no, liberal women.
Oh, jeez.
Just a guy, this is the Peak Rants. Alright, so election time, it's over, it's done. Found out that a bunch of liberal women, all the cackling, Kamala, Chameleon Harris voters, right? They're all mad. A bunch of the ladies are mad. They're angry, they're irritated. So they're not gonna date anybody, they're not gonna get married, they're not gonna hang out with fellas, they're not gonna mate, they're not gonna bring they're not gonna do anything with anybody because they're person lost in a political voting extravaganza and didn't go the way they wanted. Well, I mean, there is a positive spin to this. I think the most positive aspect with a bunch of liberal women holding out, not breeding or hanging out with other fellas or whatever's going on there with all that is that, well, the abortion should really go down. Because if you're not vaccinated, you already have a bunch of liberal women going to the abortion clinic, right? Planned Parenthood, old Planned Parenthood, right? The wrong title type place. They probably have a decline. They show us now that a bunch of women that voted for the old cackling Chameleon Harris didn't win. And they're not going to be hanging out with fellas that breed or anything. Not go clubbing, I'm assuming. Not have no fun, no marriages. Nothing. They're going to just, they should almost go out of business, I guess. I'm saying notify nobody coming to them, nobody around. Probably go down, what, 80%, I'm assuming. So good news with that. With the women holding out, is going to make abortions go down, and it should be a much, much better world. Jim Miller,
Oh, yes.
AM 1416, FM 101.1, The Answer. We'll be right back.
I had a feeling it was going to be, because when you said liberal women, I was like, it's got to be the 4B, and that's what he was talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
Yeah, so that's been the big deal, literally. Because there's been quite a few people who have said similar things, like, well, that's good news, you know, birth control should come way down. Like, I mean, like, it was just, so yeah, I was like, okay, he said it. Wow.
And then on the flip side, someone sent me a picture of a college girl with a sign that she's looking for, I won't say it here, but
Yeah.
unvaccinated D. You know, because
Oh, my
I
goodness.
actually don't want people who have been
Yeah.
infected in that way. So
No, yeah,
Yeah.
that brings up a whole other
yeah,
issue of comments.
yeah, most of us who held firm on this are looking better.
Well, I wish I could say I was one of the same, but unfortunately, I do receive VA benefits, and
So you did
yeah,
it.
you had to. Yeah, so I took my first shot in Hawaii at Spark Matsunaga, which again, it's Hawaii, so
Okay, which kind?
not the Pfizer, not the Johnson & Johnson, the other one, Moderna.
Whatever.
Moderna. And then second shot there as well. And then I got one additional booster before they said you didn't have to get it after that, even though they recommended it. And yeah, I look like this. I've had Molotov cocktails worth of shots in my
Right.
20-year career. So
Well, this is, as you know, it's different. I know people who
Oh, yeah.
you can detox from it. So if you want to get put in touch with
yeah,
potentially,
yeah. If you'd email them, email that
you can
information.
put you in
That'd
touch.
be great.
They have recommendations.
Because I know my
to
wife
try
is
to
definitely interested in that.
get
So
it out of your system.
would love to. Yeah, that mRNA stuff is not good. I see you got a decent collection there. I'm missing a couple things, but that's okay.
Part of the set.
No, I get it. I have a library behind me in my office because my office is a true office at home. But every book, because I read at least 10 pages of nonfiction every morning to start my day. So not counting the Bible, right? So normally business related. So I have quite a few books, and it's what I go to when somebody wants to join the team or something of that nature. I was like, all right, I've got some required reading for you. So Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People is book 1, and The Go-Givers, book 2 by Bob Burg. So they have to read those 2 first and actually be willing to discuss it with me.
What was the second book?
The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. Yeah, it's more of it's not really a parody, but it's only 115 pages. It's more of a mindset. That's our culture. And that's why when coming here, I was prepping myself talking about, our culture versus culture. So
Thank you for joining us for the Peak as we begin another broadcast week. I hope that you're saying the quiet stuff out loud. I hope that you're emboldened to us, and we're doing it now. One is we speak up to encourage you to speak up. So you go in your family, in your neighborhood, at work. Don't be shy. We're into a new place right now, and I think everybody was sick of being canceled, and so be bold. But also to challenge the media here in Colorado Springs to do its job. And I didn't realize how bad it was until this Mayor Yemi News Daily Wire story broke. And the media is still being silent about it. And this Gazette article, which I read toward the beginning, it was basically Mayor Yemi's new statement, which sort of didn't say anything, and an attack on the Daily Wire for not being a credible news source that fact checks. And this is the problem, and it's being exposed. And if you look around, go in. KRDO has done a couple of things. Gazette now has done a couple of things. But for the most part, it's like a media blackout. But not here at the Peak News. And so tomorrow, as we're on Monday through Thursday, 3 to 4 p.m. here on The Answer, we will be back continuing with Did Mayor Yemi Know to update you on things that we've learned even since last week. And we have a segment of the show program, Local DA for Judicial District, New Judicial District 23. George Brockler is going to be on talking about this. And then on Wednesday, it's our Faith and Family Day. We have Sean Mulholland, founder of Jesus Co., formerly known as The Worship Mob, based here in the Springs. And we're going to be talking about worship and music ministry here. Stay tuned next for the Larry Elder Show, coming up here on AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer. And check out our now 150 podcast, that's 150 at thepeak.news, and our special page for this Did Yemi Know, thepeak.news/hate crime hoax. The Peak, we say the quiet stuff out loud, and with you, we will say it even louder for such a time as this. Thank you, and shalom.